Hey, J-Bone Nation! Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester. The court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case.
What's up, folks? Oh, look at that. I go live and they're already got the camera up. Thanks for being here, everyone. Oh, they're zooming in on a door. I don't know what's going on. Let me make sure we don't miss anything. Squadoosh. Let's put on the chat. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks so much for subscribing and liking and all the good stuff. If you weren't here for the morning session, I have to leave around between 1:45 and 2 o'clock, more like 1:50-ish. So I apologize. I won't be able to do the whole thing, depending on how long this takes. Got to pick up my son from school. So appreciate you guys being here to check out this cluster F. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Miss Dina? What's up, Sky Troop on the kick machine? Mike's over there. Hey, Helen Steiner, Mandy, Betty B, Joanne, Ritz, Dawn, Legitimate Hearsay, Mia. Oh, here comes Caillou, the murdering piece of garbage, who unfortunately, in my opinion, deserves another trial, but I'm just a dope. We got a Deanna Robinson on YouTube. JD, Drew, Shannon L, Tiffany's.
Please be seated.
Oh, we're prompt. I like it. Mandy, Sky Troop, Janet, Tiffany's, Todd, Martha Bailey, Missy, Janet, Donna White, Donnie, Miss Dina, JD. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I appreciate you. Kiefer Bo, Steve-O, Serena, DLV, Helen Steiner, Pamela Holtzman. We're about to see Becky testify. Terry Gore, Chloe and Sally, Miko,
ready to proceed?
Dom's mom,
I think they're still getting the defendant ready to sit down.
Melissa Del Barker, Lisa Sober
Your
Hipster.
Honor, once he's seated, I have a matter I need to put on the record.
All right, sure.
Of course he has a matter. Of course he has a matter he has to put on the record. I'd like to put on the record that I finally found a pair of glasses that fit my watermelon head. Please put it on the record, as they can't see that. These glasses actually fit my head.
Yes, sir.
And don't look like
Your
a
Honor,
pair of
we
glasses.
last week discussed the standard by which you would proceed during this proceeding and evaluate the evidence. We argued that you should use a case called Bremer. You rejected that. But under any standard, as I understand it, the burden of proof is on the defendant to show certain statements were made or certain conduct happened. So far, Your Honor has called as court witnesses 12 witnesses. We were not offered the opportunity to cross-examine them, and so we've not had the opportunity to present any evidence whatsoever. And before the state presents evidence, I believe that we should be able to call witnesses. And I would ask the court to allow us to present some evidence before the state comes up with rebuttal. And by the way, under the cases you cited, they have no affirmative obligation to present anything at this point. There's no requirement they present anything. So I would ask you to allow us to call a witness or two before you make a decision as to whether or not they need to call a witness.
State?
Your Honor, we obviously have argued very extensively some of the cases, and I think the South Carolina jurisprudence is very clear that while an evidentiary hearing is appropriate, and that's what we're doing here, that manner of inquiry is purely within the discretion as the trial judge sees fit. This is not a criminal trial where we're here with the jury to present the normal criminal trial process. This is a inquiry that is very much directed by the trial court and what the trial court thinks is appropriate. And so the state certainly is comfortable with the inquiry the court is conducting. And my understanding is, as far as putting up Ms. Hill, this is the manner in which the court wanted that evidence presented, and so we're happy to comply in that regard. But we think that this inquiry is within your discretion, and we have no issue with the manner in which Your Honors propose to conduct it.
Please, the court, Your Honor.
Please, the court, if you
Certainly,
shut your melon head.
this
Shut
hearing
up.
is within your discretion. What is not is who has the burden of proof. We do. And we can't meet that burden if we can't call witnesses. And so I'd ask the court to allow us to call witnesses, and if at the conclusion of us presenting those, you believe the state is required to present evidence to contradict that evidence, or in some way, I'm not quite sure, since Remmer is not the standard, I'm not quite sure what they have to prove, but that's an argument down the line. I believe we ought to be able to call witnesses now, and we have witnesses which would substantiate the burden we have to show you that statements were made by the clerk of court, and that those statements had impact on a juror or jurors.
All right. I've got a couple of reactions to that. Number one, the pretrial was the time to figure out exactly what we were going to do here. And I think it comes at the last minute for you to now come and say we want to present witnesses. You briefed the matter of witnesses. We had a long pretrial. After I made my rulings on what I thought the scenario was that should be used based on State versus Green, you lodged objections to that, but you did not offer at that time any information about who you wanted to call other than this lengthy filing in one of your briefs. It comes pretty late in time for, in my view, for you to do that now. Second thing is, I gave the defense a big break when I allowed you to be the cross-examiner and the state to be the presenter of Becky Hill. She's really a witness that each side needs to prove their view of what happened in this matter. The state puts her up to try to show that there was no impact by anything she said, and that some of the things your witnesses say were said, she says were not. So there's a conflict in the evidence there. I'm not going to rearrange the situation and go to any witnesses of yours right now. I'm going to see what Ms. Hill has to say. And then afterwards we can talk about whether there's any need for any other witnesses.
Your Honor, it just
Oh, shut up.
argue this
Get
with you.
Becky in here.
We did not understand. We assumed you'd adopt Remmer because that was...
Well, I don't know why you assumed that
Because
when the
that's
South Carolina Supreme Court said very clearly that we do not go by the guidance of the 1950s
Man, I really like her. Why you assume, Poot?
case of U.S. v. Rimmer.
We do not believe that's what Justice Kittredge has said.
They said it straight out, as clear as a bell can be, but I've ruled on that.
Yes, ma'am.
And,
All I'm saying
and the South Carolina Supreme Court's going to have plenty of chances to decide that they want to modify Green.
Well, when we were somewhat taken aback by a ruling as a result, and that ruling came at a point where we didn't know what these witnesses were going to testify to. So we now, and by the way, you've set aside 3 days for this. What's the hurry? This gentleman is facing life with no parole. We should take this in a very deliberate way. He's got a 14th Amendment right to ensure that he had a fair trial.
All these arguments should have been made before this time,
Why?
Mr. Bach. Well, Mr. Harper, I've told you how I'm going to handle this thing. Your objections are noted and they're on the record. But right now, what I'm going to do is what I said I would do. We're going to call Ms. Hill and see what she has to say. I have no idea who all you want to call as witnesses or whether they're here in the courtroom at the present time. But we'll get to that after Ms. Hill testifies.
Sit down, you quibbling
Yes, Your Honor.
bitch.
All right.
Sit down. Oh, I love this judge.
I'm bringing to your attention this email.
Bring the Becky. Let's go. I mean, I loved Judge Newman, obviously, but this judge Putting Pootie Tang in his place is amazing. Let's hear Becky. Will she do that thing when she
Go to a
testifies?
little something here that I'm just getting an email on.
Uh-oh.
And put this on the record right now. I have a communication from
Uh-oh.
Mr. McCullough.
Uh-oh. What now?
That's only
What now?
That is copied to Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Waters, and Attorney General Wilson. And basically says his client, Juror Z, wants to enhance the testimony she gave with some sort of affidavit that he wants me to look at, and I have looked at. I want to hear from the state and the defense, but I can tell you I'm not inclined to get back into the testimony that's already been taken by these jurors. Her inconsistencies, whatever they are in the record, and she now wants to have another bite at the apple. I'm not at all enthusiastic about that, but I will hear from you, Mr. Waters,
God.
first.
Your Honor, the jurors testified. The court conducted the inquiry that needed to be conducted. She answered the questions. I would agree with Your Honor that multiple bites at the apple are not warranted. So we would believe we should proceed forward as the court has indicated.
Here we go. Here it comes from
Harpootlian?
Pootie Tang. We're not even going to be able to hear. I'm going to have to leave because this idiot's going to talk the rest of the time.
Your Honor, I note two things. The
Here
first
we
thing
go.
is we asked to be able to examine this juror. You denied that request. Number two, she's not our witness. She's not Mr. Waters' witness. She was the court's witness, and a juror that, and you commended all of them on their honesty. She's attempting to be honest. This process we're going through is an effort to seek the truth. This is the truth. I don't understand why it can't come in.
I think I understand what your position is, Mr.
So we'd
Harpootlian.
ask you to make it a part of the record. You can say you're going to consider it. You're not going to consider it, but it should be a part of the record.
Wow. Thanks for letting her know. So considerate,
I'll
Pootie
give some
Tang.
thought to whether this thing should be a part of the record, but I can tell you this. Witnesses don't get on the stand and testify under oath and then seek to add or change or deal in any way with their testimony. Those questions were very open-ended questions that asked for her responses, and she gave them. If they're inconsistent, she can't come up now and try to close the loop of consistency by some additional testimony. I am not thinking about allowing that to be done.
With all due respect, Your Honor, we believe, and we said at the time, the way you questioned her put her in the position of saying, yes, that was my verdict then. We think, and we couldn't examine her, and Your Honor, to say now that this affidavit doesn't accurately depict her position is to deny fact, the truth.
You've already said that once. I note your position on that matter, but I decline to adopt it. All right.
We'd make this an exhibit as a proffer for our case. This affidavit, we proffer it for our case.
I proffer you to sit your ass
We have a
down,
burden.
Quibbler. Sit down, Quibby.
I'll give some thought to it. I'm not ready to deal with that right now. I have looked at it just in the moment right before I put it on the record. I'll do some research about that, and we'll close that loop before the end of the day.
Your Honor, again, I indicate we have 2 more days. We don't have to wrap everything
Shut
up today.
up! Sit down. My Lanta, this
All
man.
right. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Rebecca Hill.
Here we go, folks. Brang the Becky.
All right. Carry this here and bring it to the courtroom.
What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for being here. Hit that like button if you haven't already. We're about to hear Becky Hill testify to Larry knows what. Here we got Caillou the murderer about to get a retrial because Becky couldn't shut her face. Just don't. That's your one thing. Don't influence the jurors. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, boy. By the way, not only did the one juror say that she said something, another juror confirmed that she said to watch the body language. He said he wasn't influenced by it, but he confirmed that she said that. And then Penny's saying hi now.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hill. How are you?
I'm fine.
I want to get started, if you would. If you could state your full name for the record and spell it for the court reporter, please.
My name is Becky Hill. Last name Hill, Hill.
All right. And if you would, just give us, you're currently the clerk of court for Colleton County, is that correct?
That's correct.
And just very quickly, if you would, what year were you elected as clerk of court?
At the end of 2020.
At the end of 2020?
Yes.
And prior to that, did you have any involvement or experience with the state judicial system?
I did.
And could you tell the court what that was, please?
I was a South Carolina official court reporter for about 14 years.
All right. And were you, in being an official court reporter, you would serve in the courtroom, which is Ms. Harris is here today, is that correct?
That's
what
correct.
Was your, all right. And was that primarily in the 14th Circuit?
It was primarily in the 14th Circuit. However, I did travel throughout the state.
Did you have any other experience in professional experience prior to becoming a court reporter or clerk of court?
I was a court reporter freelance for 2 years before that.
Okay. And then any other professional pursuits you've had over the course of your career?
I was able to be a middle school teacher, and I worked for the Board of Disabilities for a few years as well.
Let me go ahead and just kind of get straight to it. In your capacity as clerk of court and in your previous experience being a court reporter, were you familiar with the rules that apply to court staff as it comes to interactions with jurors in the course of a criminal trial or a civil trial for that matter?
Yes.
All right. And could you tell the court generally what those rules are as far as what contact is permissible and what contact is not permissible, just very quickly?
The judge gives the law and gives the instructions for a jury, and the attorneys will state their opening argument, their opening statements, their closing arguments, and basically the clerk of court and anyone else, court reporter, we're there to, my understanding would be to make sure that everyone's taken care of. Do you need some Kleenex? Do you need some water? Different things like that, just to make sure that they're taken care of.
Do you need to buy a copy of my book?
Is it common for clerks of court to have interaction with jurors during the course of a trial to see to those various logistical needs that you just described?
Yes.
And did that happen in the Murdaugh case?
It did.
And can you give us an example of some of the logistical things that you, or other things that you would see to deal with any needs that the jurors may have? I mean, did you provide them food, coffee, make sure they were comfortable, things like that?
Yes, all of that.
All right. Provide blankets for them if they were cold?
Our courtroom was very cold in Colleton County, yes.
Did you provide them with aspirin or Tylenol if they needed, make sure coffee and snacks were available?
Yes.
Did you take lunch orders for them so that they were fed each day?
Yes.
At any time, did you interact with any juror in an attempt to influence their view of the facts in the State v. Murdaugh case?
No.
All right. Now I want to ask you some specifics about that and some allegations that have been raised. At any time, did you tell the jury not to be fooled by evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys?
I did not.
At any time, did you instruct the jury to watch him closely and look at his actions?
I did not.
At any time, did you instruct the jury or tell the jury to look at his movements?
No.
At any time, as the jury moved to deliberate, did you tell the jury this shouldn't take long?
No.
At any time, did you tell the jury that the defense case, watch out for the defense case, they're going to try to throw you off, or anything along those lines that was meant to influence the jurors against Mr. Murdaugh?
No.
Let me ask you if you ever made any comment to the jurors about the fact that the defendant was going to testify. Did you have a conversation in the presence of the jurors prior to the defendant testifying about the fact that he was about to testify?
It wasn't directly related to the jurors. I was talking to Mr. Bill, who was our bailiff foreman, our bailiff over the jury, and I was talking to him about that.
All right. And what did you say?
I told him what I had just come from downstairs telling my security and bailiff office, that Judge Newman had allowed more testimony in regarding the financials, and that also the defendant had decided that he may testify.
All right. And where were the jurors at the point that that conversation occurred?
There were a few jurors standing in line, and there were some in the bathroom, I'm sure, because they said they were waiting on jurors to get out of the bathroom. And there were some in the jury room just milling around from what I could see, looking down the hallway.
And again, what were the words that you said during that conversation? What were the effect of them?
To Mr. Bill.
Yeah. And what did you say?
I told him that that Judge Newman was allowing more of the financial evidence in, which would prolong the testimony in the trial a little bit, and also that the defendant had decided that he was going to testify.
Did you say anything about this being an important day, pay attention, we'll get coffee for you, things like that during that?
I usually give a little pep talk to the jurors. It's sometimes hard sitting a long time, but my usual, and I do remember saying, pay attention, it's a big day today. Whatever you need, let Mr. Bill know, or one of the other bailiffs, and they'll be glad to get it for you.
Did your comments, or were your comments in any way phrased in favor of one side or against another side, or were they more of a neutral comment about paying attention?
No, it was not for one side or the other.
A pep talk? What is she, a cheer coach? A pep talk? It's a murder trial. Did she have one of those horns?
Were you present when the jury went to the Moselle property to conduct the jury view?
I was.
All right. And was Judge Newman there as well?
He was.
During the time that you were on the property, traveling there, traveling back, did you have any conversation with the jurors where you made any comment about the substance of any testimony or any comment about the merits or the strength of the case?
No.
Did you have a quick comment to the forelady about how the property was beautiful and there were tea olive trees there that bloom and smell good, or words to that effect?
I did.
All right. And was there any other conversation related that you had where you made any comment about the case or the merits or anything like that?
Oh, no.
During the course of this trial, did you have a bailiff employee whose primary job it was to see to the jury and their security and to keep them separate from everyone else that was involved in this trial?
I did.
And who was that?
Mr. Bill Polk.
All right. And he was ultimately the jury coordinator in this particular case?
That's correct.
During the course of the deliberations, once the jury went back there, did you have any contact with the juries or have any substantive discussion with them?
Not at all.
Did you have any discussion with them about logistics, about staying in a hotel or anything like that?
I did not.
Did you have any interaction with the jurors or anything to do with them having smoke breaks or anything like that?
I did not.
During the course of the trial, did you have any discussion or interaction with the jurors about them giving any interviews to the media or making themselves available to the media? I'm asking during the course of the trial.
No, not during the course of the trial.
After the verdict had been reached and the case was in sentencing, did you have any conversation with any jurors at that time, after they had already entered their verdict and been individually polled?
Yes, after the sentencing.
All right, and tell the court what that interaction was at that time.
There were several outlets, news outlets, that wanted to interview the jury as a whole and really wanted to get them up to New York. And so I was trying to get a hold of all the jurors to talk about that. That was something we had not prepared for.
Did you at all pressure the jurors to speak, or did you just tell them that it was their option to speak or not, and here's the contact information?
I did not pressure the jury to speak. No.
Did you advise them that it was their decision and their decision alone whether or not they wished to speak to the media?
It was totally their decision.
And did you advise them of that?
Yes, yes.
I'm going to ask it again, but I just want to be sure. At any time, did you make any comment to any juror or in the presence of any juror in which you at all tried to influence them in favor of one side or against another?
I did not.
Did you understand, being a longtime court employee and clerk of court, that that is outside the boundaries of what is appropriate interactions with the jurors during the course of the trial?
Absolutely.
And at any time did you violate that rule that you understood?
I did not.
Court's indulgence, 1 moment.
Charlotte, thank you so much for becoming a beau. Thank you, Anna, for becoming a beau. Bonnie Bailey, $10 super chat, thank you. Kimberly Davis, $5 super chat, thank you.
Mr. Harpootney.
Helen Steiner, $20, thank you. And here we go, Pootie Tang. Pootie the Quibster, the Quibbler. Look at Meadows shaking his... Meadows can't believe he's going to have to listen to this guy again.
Ms. Hill,
Oh, God, here we go.
Together, didn't we?
We did.
And during those 6 weeks, you were as helpful to me as you could be, correct?
I was.
Accommodated just about every request I made.
Yes, sir.
Becky, wait.
Guys, I'm going to go until 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. DJ Roomba, the court's Roomba, is clearly cleaning up trash right now. I'll be going to 2 o'clock, guys. Mike gifted out a membership. Thank you, Mike. Sage Lake getting it.
Where were we? Oh, yeah, we're old friends.
Heard. That was the microphone that was supposed to. You're fine where you are. Absolutely fine.
Yes, ma'am. It was a staged microphone that was obscuring my ability to question a witness.
Yeah. Well, what I'm wondering is whether you can be heard without a microphone. Do we need to try to get a microphone up on this podium? Yeah, that would be good. All right.
Other than you, but I assume they can hear us. The court reporter, I'm sorry. She's more important, not as important as you.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, yeah, we're old friends, right? We spent 6 weeks together in a very pressure-filled situation, correct?
It was a long 6 weeks.
It was a long 6 weeks. And during those 6 weeks, you were helpful to me in a number of different ways. Accommodating friends that I had that wanted to come watch the trial, for instance, correct?
That's correct.
You even allowed me to use the private restroom down on the first floor so I didn't have to stand in line with the rest of the people trying to get breaks, correct?
Correct.
So we have no animosity towards each other. You didn't do something to me, and I didn't do something to you during that trial, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, given that, I'm going to ask you some questions today that may indicate to you that I have some antagonism towards you. Let me disabuse you of that. I'm here doing a job representing my client, and you've been around the court system for decades, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you understand what we're doing here today.
Yes.
Now, let me understand a couple of things. I think, and I've read your book, some editions of your book. There's several. We got a bunch of emails in which you have drafts that you forwarded to your co-author, correct?
Your Honor,
Correct.
objection. I believe I would object to relevance. I believe any draft she sent to her co-author with the book is beyond the scope of this inquiry here today.
Overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And in those drafts, you say certain things about the trial, about the process, which you later did not include in the final version. It's called editing, is that correct?
I would agree with that.
Okay. Now, let's talk about this book for just a second. When did you first decide you were going to write a book?
I think a thought was there, a very fleeting thought, before the trial.
Yeah,
Did
you should have
take
kept
any
it
steps
fleeting,
before
madam.
the trial, or at the initiation of the trial, to begin writing this book or working with somebody on this book?
Oh, no, sir.
When did you and your co-author get together?
It was several weeks after the trial.
Okay. Did you talk to anybody about the fact you were going to write a book before the trial?
There were several anchors and several journalists that I did speak with about the possibility of writing a book.
I'm so disorganized, I apologize. Did you seek assistance in this trial from other clerks of court?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who were they?
Rhonda McElveen, who is the Barnwell County Clerk of Court, and Renee Elvis from the Horry County Clerk of Court.
And were they there with you the entire 6 weeks?
No.
I mean, how long were they there? Or how often were they there?
Rhonda McElveen was there as often as she could be, probably several times a week. Renee Elvis helped me during the jury selection.
Leave it to this guy to not be prepared.
And did she begin, that is, Ms. McElveen, did she begin working with you prior to jury selection?
Can you repeat that question?
We began jury selection, I think, on January 23rd, correct?
Correct.
Was she working with you or consulting with you prior to the 23rd?
No, sir.
Did you have any conversation with her about the trial?
Not until she got to the trial on I can't remember the exact day she came.
Okay. Now, is she a friend of yours?
She was a friend, yes.
Was?
Well, she is a friend.
Okay.
Yes.
So she's done nothing to make you any less a friend.
No, sir.
Now, did you tell her about the time of the trial that you were going to write a book? That you had thought about and were going to write a book?
I can't remember exactly. I think we did have a conversation about a book possibly
Becky, girl.
in the future.
Tell the truth, Becky.
And did you tell her you're going to write a book because you thought it would make a lot of money?
Oh, no, sir.
You never said that.
No, sir.
And did you tell her that you were going to write a book to make a bunch of money so you could buy a lake lot and build a house on it?
No, sir.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Becky, girl.
Now, did you ever
Becky.
tell her that you had given a juror a ride home, that you had accompanied Mr. Bill, what's his last name?
Bill Polk.
You're right. That you and he took a juror home one night. Did you tell her that?
Becky.
Did you take a juror home one night?
I didn't take a juror home one night.
Did
No,
Mr.
sir.
Mr. Polk and you take a juror home one night?
No, sir, we
Okay,
didn't.
you never gave a juror a ride in a car with Mr. Polk or without?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, also, during the trial, your daughter ended up on the venire, is that right?
She did.
And she was coming up, and did you talk to me and Mr. Waters about putting her on the jury if at all possible?
I'm not sure that we wanted her to be on the jury if at all possible, but I think the question was, would she make a good juror? And I said she sure would.
Now, I don't
This
think we
is-
asked you. I think you told us she would make a great juror, did you not?
I remember you asking.
Okay. Okay.
This is not good for Becky.
Considering putting your daughter on the jury?
Yes, sir.
And who does she work for?
She works for Compass South.
Did she work for the sheriff's department at some point?
No, sir.
Okay. Did she work in law enforcement at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. How many jury rooms were there?
We have 2 jury rooms in Colleton.
In this trial, how many jury rooms did you have? How many?
2.
Okay, so the entire jury wasn't together at any one time? They were separated into 2 rooms?
Yes.
Okay. And when they're separated into 2 jury rooms like that, are they next door to each other? Are they down the hall from each other?
They are next door to each other.
Okay. So, but if you close the door to one, can they hear what's going on in the other one?
Some women probably have very good hearing, and men too, but I would say probably not.
Okay. Are there restrooms in both of the jury rooms?
There are.
Okay. Are there 2 restrooms or just one?
There's one restroom in each jury room.
Okay. Were either one of those restrooms designated men and women, or did everybody use the same one?
They were unisex.
They were unisex. Okay. Now, prior to your testimony here today, have you met with the Attorney General's office in Swed?
I have.
On how many occasions?
I want to say twice.
Okay. And remember when the first time was?
I think the first time was in September.
Okay. And the second time was last week?
Yes, sir.
And that was in Walterboro?
Yes, right.
And y'all spent about 4.5 hours together?
I want to say maybe 2 hours together.
Okay. And in those 2 hours, you went over your testimony here today?
They asked me questions.
Did they ever correct your answers or suggest you answered differently?
Oh, no.
No. So you just went through what you went through in 20 minutes here. It took 2 hours to go through when you were with them.
There were times when I would step out of the room and come back in. But I would say we were there for about 2 hours.
Now, you have described in your book your role as Switzerland. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that is that you should not be in any way opinionated about what's going on in the trial. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay. Yet in your book you indicated a number of different points during the trial you had concluded he was guilty. Is that correct?
I think
Your Honor, I object at this point. I don't know if her conclusions in the book are in any way relevant to what occurred during the trial and whether or not there was any communications with the jurors, which is the sole issue that we're here for today, is whether or not Ms. Hill had any extraneous influence on the jurors. And so I think this is going a little far afield. We object to the relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled. You may continue.
Let me give you an example. You indicate riding back from Moselle that you and 3 other people were in a car and you all decided adamantly, I think was the word you used, that he was guilty, that he had killed his wife and son. Is that what you put in the book?
I can't remember if I put that in the book, but if you say I did, then I will agree
that
with
happen?
you. We did have a conversation about what each of us thought,
And all 4 agreed that he was guilty, correct?
and none of us were jurors.
No. Trust me, I know that. But you had an abiding conviction, at least by the time of the Moselle visit, that he was guilty. And the other people in the car with you were bailiffs, were they not?
No.
Who were they?
Some were not bailiffs. One was a court reporter. One was our security officer, head security, and another was a deputy sheriff.
Okay. But the four of y'all rode out there, and based on what, and I mean, I can, you want me to read to you how chilled you were and how you felt that poor Paul and Maggie had been executed by him on that scene, that visiting the scene convinced you that he was a horrible, horrible murderer? You want me to read that to you? Or you will concede that's what you wrote?
I will concede that's what I wrote, but if I may, I would say that a lot of that is poetic license in writing.
No, Becky, this ain't it, girl. This is not it. Poetic license. First of all, you plagiarized half the book. Second of all, just admit what you said. You're making this worse.
A book and in making it sound like that.
Okay, so some of it's poetic license, and some of it you just stole. You purloined it from that BBC writer, right?
Right. Again, I object to not only the relevance but the scope of cross. I would object also under Rule 608. I don't believe that that's appropriate cross-examination.
Overruled. You may continue, Mr. Harpootlian.
Did you steal part of the book?
I did plagiarize,
Okay,
Mr. Harpootlian.
that's stealing, isn't it?
And it is, and for
Okay.
that I'm very sorry, and I have apologized.
Okay. And that makes it okay?
What I did, and I apologized for that.
And part of the book is, you say, literary license, exaggeration?
I wouldn't call it exaggeration.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: is Switzerland, and this is, you're saying this is happening while you're supposed to be Switzerland, you decided the defendant's guilty, and if Ms. McElmeen says that it's going to make you more money if he's found guilty, don't you think it's reasonable to assume that you may have crossed the line from time to time?
Your Honor, I object to the form of the question, assuming facts not in evidence.
Overruled.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Can you repeat that question one more time,
I'm
Mr.
not going to repeat
Harpootlian?
it. Let me just move on to something else. Let me ask you, you had interactions with some jurors, and I believe in a conference in the judges' chambers, you indicated that you had seen a post on, is it Walterboro Word of Mouth?
Your Honor, again, I object. I think he's delving now into the Facebook inquiry. We believe, again, that that's irrelevant to the inquiry before Your Honor.
I will allow limited, he's, as I understand it, trying to impeach her testimony and explore her credibility. And I think I've already told Mr. Harpootlian that I don't want a whole trial about the business of Facebook and the egg juror, but I will allow limited examination on this point. You may proceed, Mr. Harpootlian.
Am I oversimplifying that? I mean, it's in your book. You saw something on Walterboro Word of Mouth, which appeared to you to be from the ex-husband of one of your jurors. Is that correct? Am I oversimplifying that?
I remember reading one night something on Walterboro Word of Mouth, and when I was in the courtroom on a Monday morning listening to the judge and the attorneys talking about a matter, it sounded like it was relevant to each other.
Okay. And you became aware somehow that this juror had a restraining order out for her ex-husband?
She told me that herself.
Okay. And tell me how it came for her to tell you about that. Where did she tell you?
She was very talkative, and when I was instructed by Judge Newman to go and get her from out of the jury room with a deputy following me, she was talking to me all the way back to the judge's chambers, and she mentioned that there were restraining orders out when they had divorced.
So how did the judge, who brought it to the judge's attention about this Walterboro Word of Mouth thing?
I let the judge know, thinking that it could be related.
Okay, and you let the judge know what?
That I had read something on Walterboro Word of Mouth.
Okay, and that you knew it was tied to that juror?
I didn't know that it was. I wasn't sure at all.
Who do you think it was tied to?
From what y'all were talking about at the bench, I felt like I needed to let him know, just in case it was related. There was something about an ex-husband and an ex-wife and somebody being on the jury.
You didn't tell the judge that you had found what we call the apology post? You didn't tell the judge that?
I didn't call it that, no.
You don't remember producing it, saying producing it to the judge, saying this is a post in which the guy that posted it on Friday night says the devil got in him and he's drinking and he apologized for what he posted? You didn't produce that?
My staff did. One of my staff
But
did.
you gave that to the judge and gave it to us, did you not?
Yes, we did.
As if it were from that juror's ex-husband, correct?
Correct.
And you know it wasn't?
I don't know that, Mr. Hartbulian. No.
So, and this, you did not take that juror out and talk to her before you took her to the judge? Is that your...
I never talked to that juror about stuff like that.
Okay. Did you ever talk to the forelady of the jury, separate from the jury?
I did.
Okay. And tell us, where did that occur?
When I would go into the jury room and I would speak with the forelady, we would be in like the hallway, in the two jury rooms were side by side, and the opening to the jury room went out into the hallway, and we would be surrounded by the jurors at all times. Mr. Bill would be very, very nearby, or another bailiff as well, when we would speak.
And what did you speak to her about?
There were several instances. One was there was a juror who needed some feminine products. There was another time when Band-Aids were needed. There were times when Tylenol would be needed.
Other than items that were needed by the jury's health object, did you ever discuss, did she ever discuss with you, if some issues jurors had emotionally or some issues with dissension in the jury room?
She only told me that there were some loud jurors, and it made some of the other jurors a little upset, but other than that, that's...
What did you tell her to do?
I told her if it got out of hand to write a note to the judge, and that she could sign the note and get Mr. Bill to give it to the judge, and the judge would handle that for her.
Okay. Now,
All right, guys, I hate to do this, and I'm sorry. I got to end the stream. I got to pick up my son from school. It's on Court TV. It's on Law and Crime. I'm really sorry. I wish I could stay longer, but I can't. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for hitting the like and share and subscribe. Thank you all for the super chats and everything, but I got to go. I'm late. I'm